Welcome to the NSJD show, Pakistan's first fitness and self-improvement podcast, in which we discuss tools for self-improvement and physical and mental well-being.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the NSJD show. I'm Noroze, Sikander, Junaid, Dani, and I've been into fitness for 14 years. Today's guest is Humay Wasim, who is a yoga instructor. She's also an ISSA certified trainer, and she also has a cookbook of her own. And she is also, forgot about that, she's also into self-defense and a little bit of mixed martial arts, especially for women. So our conversation revolved mostly around yoga and meditation. We discussed कि आजकल की जो हमारी fast-paced environment है, and I use this term a lot, आजकल की fast-paced environment, because I think it's very important to realize कि हम अपने hustle culture में इतने महव हो चुके हैं कि we don't sit and think and process our thoughts. और हमें लगता है कि बिज़ी होना बहुत फिट बात है, जो कि बहुत फिट बात है, बट अपने आप को हम टाइम नहीं देते. वेदर इट्स थ्रू एक्सरसाइज, वेदर इट्स थ्रू समथिंग एल्स, वेदर इट्स थ्रू जस्ट सिटिंग डाउन विद योर थॉट्स एंड बीइंग इन द प्रेजेंट. एंड दैट्स व्हाट योगा इज़ ऑल अबाउट. वी डिस्कस्ड द 8 पिलर्स ऑफ योगा. वी डिस्कस्ड कि योगा आपको प्रेजेंट मोमेंट में कैसे लाता है. वी ऑल्सो डिस्कस्ड अबाउट मेडिटेशन. थोड़ा सा मैंने अपना पर्सपेक्टिव और अपना एक्सपीरियंस भी शेयर किया अबाउट मेडिटेशन एंड कुछ key questions पूछे around it. और इसके अलावा we also discussed about self defense in today's society. पाकिस्तान में ख़ास तौर पे औरतों को self defense जो है वो थोड़ा बहुत at least आना चाहिए. और उसके अलावा we also had a brief discussion around Pilates, which is also a form of fitness, and I myself did not have much information about Pilates. तो ये हमारी main discussion थी. And if you guys like the video, प्लीज़ डू क्लिक ऑन द लाइक बटन. उससे होता क्या है कि यूट्यूब का एल्गोरिथम ऐसा बना हुआ है कि इट हेल्प्स द वीडियो रीच द राइट ऑडियंसेस. उसके अलावा इफ़ यू गाइस लाइक दिस कंटेंट एंड यू वांट टू वॉच मोर फिजिकल फिटनेस, मेंटल फिटनेस एंड सेल्फ इंप्रूवमेंट कंटेंट गोइंग फॉरवर्ड, डू क्लिक ऑन द सब्सक्राइब बटन. एंड if you are an international listener, you can listen and watch this podcast on Spotify as well. And गला शला ख़राब हो रहा है, but let's just jump to our conversation with Humay. So, hi Humay, how are you?
Hi Noroze, I'm good. How are you?
I am great as well. What's up in life? How's everything going?
Everything's going great. Thank you for having me on your show.
No worries.
And I'm just giving yoga classes these days, and recently wrote my cookbook of healthy meals. So busy in the marketing and all of that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really curious about yoga. Because that's something that I haven't really, tried maybe once or twice, but not properly. So
yes.
I had another yoga teacher on the podcast, I think that was like 15 episodes back, 20 episodes back. Yeah. So that was I really enjoyed that conversation because usme na, it's something new for me. It's not your typical conversation about gym exercises. And so that's why I really enjoyed it. So that's why I thought, why not have someone else and get their point of view on this as well. So can you, for everyone who is watching and maybe they haven't seen that episode, can you define what exactly is yoga? Because a lot of people, including myself, we confuse it with meditation. But there is some commonalities, I guess, but they are essentially different.
So yoga is something that's much greater than just gymming or just meditation, Mm-hmm. Yoga is an entire way of life. It's a complete philosophy, and there are 8 limbs of yoga. So it originated over 5,000 years ago in the subcontinent, and later it was appropriated by religion. So some people confuse it for Hinduism or Buddhism, but it's not that. It can be practiced in a secular manner. You can adopt the good principles of yoga and you can apply them to your life. So yoga has asana in it, and asana is what we call the exercise, okay? Then it has pranayama. Pranayama are the breathing exercises. Then it has niyamas and yamas, which are principles on how to live, what a person should do and what a person should not do. And those include things like ahimsa, which means non-violence, saucha, which means hygiene, cleanliness. It has to do with generosity, principles in how to be a generous person, how to not be someone who hoards. Then it has pratihara, which is about focus and attention. So the philosophy is that if you can master all of this, you can become a person who's living at their optimal best. And I think in today's world, everyone is like, most people are into self-improvement, right?
So it's a way of life, basically. It's not just, okay, you have a session and then you're done. It's not just that.
It's a whole philosophy because, a lot of people, even when they go to the gym, they do it because they want to improve themselves. And they want better well-being and they want improved mental health. So that can be done when you're doing almost all of these things, which is hard to achieve, but we can have a high aim so we can at least be close to accomplish some of these things.
So you mentioned that yoga has 8 limbs.
8 limbs,
Eight limbs. Which one do you like the most?
I can't compare because I feel like you need to achieve a few of them in tandem. But something that I practice daily is asana and pranayama. So asana is the physical exercises that you do, and it literally translates to a seat. So the difference, like one main difference between yoga and other forms of exercise like HIIT or calisthenics or anything that's trending these days, is that yoga poses you have to hold. You know how you hold a plank for a few seconds, but it feels like an eternity. Most yoga poses are such that you have to hold them, like the warrior variations or the tree pose, and you're focusing on one point. So yoga is different in that sense.
So what's the aim? Like you're in that pose, you're holding that pose. Like let's take the one you mentioned, the warrior pose.
Yeah.
What are you trying to achieve by staying in that pose for a long time?
Okay. So the philosophy of yoga is that yoga is restorative. It means that you're going to apply the least amount of force, but you're going to gain the most amount of benefit doing that, That way it'll be restorative. That's one benefit of it. Secondly, a benefit. So what that does is that diminishes the wear and tear. There are exercises like these days, there are trends, do 100 squats, do 100 lunges. And log kar to lete hain, but they end up, ruining their knees. They're ruining their health. So yoga is a very safe way. So it's restorative. You still get breaks in between. And secondly, you asked, what's the benefit of holding a pose? So there's a pose called the tree pose. And in the tree pose, you're standing on one leg, you're balancing on one leg, and your other foot is placed either on your calf muscle or your thigh muscle. And your arms are up in the air, right? And you have to keep your gaze fixed at one point. Now, what that does is that gives you the ability to balance yourself and focus on one point. And if you're doing that and you're thinking about your teacher who bullied you in the 4th grade, that's impossible, So it's giving you the power of concentration. It's giving you the power of exercising your willpower. And it's also putting you in the present moment. Because a lot of people who have mental health issues is because they're thinking about things that happened in their childhood or happened years ago or even last week. The purpose of yoga is to bring you in the present moment.
That's very interesting. And the tip that I got from the last yoga teacher was that was more of a meditation tip. But it was like, I said that, I tried meditation, but my mind kept wandering.
Yeah.
So what do I do? And that's very similar to what she said, that, the point of meditation is to help you be in the present and in the moment. And you do that if your mind is going here and there, you focus on your breathing and that will help you do that,
exactly.
right? Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, so it's about focus and it's about breath and it's about concentration and yoga helps you with that,
Yeah. So in terms of, and I'm going to combine meditation here as well. So how much has yoga helped you in terms of your self-actualization, increasing your self-awareness, being more closer to yourself actually? And what's that journey been like? Because I know that it must have made a huge difference.
Oh yeah, yoga has helped me tremendously and it continues to help me because, it's a complete lifestyle and I believe you have to practice it every day. You have to practice it regularly. You can take breaks 1 or 2 days a week, but it keeps helping you. And it helped me. The reason I started it years ago was because I was suffering from an anxiety disorder.
Okay.
And it was, my mother even took me to the doctor, and the doctor was prescribing me an antidepressant. And, they work for certain people, but it didn't work for me. It actually aggravated my condition. And I was like, you know what, I can fix this in a natural way. I had done my research on yoga, and I decided to take a yoga class. I went to a really good teacher in the city, in Islamabad. And after like 3 or 4 sessions, I felt that all of that anxiety, all of those intrusive thoughts, everything disappeared.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I hope you don't mind me asking that these intrusive thoughts, was this linked to a particular incident, or does this come up randomly in your life?
There was a trigger personally, yes, but it was also like the atmosphere of the country at that point. It was, this was 2010, 2011 when terrorism was really on the rise. And, there was like a blast just 5 minutes from our house. And then there was also a threat at our university that any person could come anytime and blow things up. Right. So to be in that mindset was not easy, Yeah.
Okay. And you're saying like 4 or 5 sessions of yoga helped tremendously with that.
Yeah, it was like, when you are suffering from an anxiety disorder, you feel like there's this big gray cloud in your mind and you feel a lot of brain fog, right? But when I did yoga, I felt like all of that cleared up and that I could see with fresh eyes. There was clarity. So yoga does help with that, because when you're anxious, you become disconnected from the present moment. And you're always thinking of the worst case scenario. You're thinking, ke, pata nahi kya bura ho jayega. But when you come into yoga, when you come into your body, then you realize that no, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of like accepting that, this can go wrong and kuch nahi hoga, I'll handle it. Does that, is that koi factor hota hai?
Yeah. So, in Western medicine, we are seen as the physical and the mental. But in yoga, when you study yoga, you learn that a human being has different layers. There are 5 sheets to a human being,
Really?
which are known as koshas. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the physical body, there's the mind body, there's the emotional body, then there's a wisdom body. And then there is the bliss body, which is called the Anandamaya kosha, right? So what we do is we live in the physical and mental world and we think ke bas yahi sab kuch hai. But sometimes, if you're thinking something, you must notice that there is an observer part of you, right? So that is a different part of your own being. And sometimes, I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes people just have a gut feeling that something is wrong or something is right. Yeah. So that's your intuition, which is a different self. It's not your cognitive self,
Right.
Yeah.
So which layer is that gut feeling part?
So that is known as the Vijnanamaya kosha, which
Wisdom?
means, wisdom.
Interesting.
Wisdom and intuition, that is a part of you. Sometimes you can connect with in your dreams,
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So...
And I wanted to mention the most innermost layer, the Anandamaya kosha, is in English we can call it the bliss body. And that is your connection with the divine, with God. And that is of pure bliss. So if you have seen little children, they always seem happy, right? They're playing. Even like these days, there are a lot of pictures of Gaza and war torn Gaza. And wahan bhi you see there are children jinhone wahan bhi khel kood banaya hua hai. They're making swings, they're playing. Because they're in that bliss state. Yeah, I'm not saying they don't feel bad. Of course they do. Their children are suffering really badly. But my point is children are naturally in that state. Yeah.
Right. And as we grow older, we go through different experiences. So we start to stay more in our, the physical and the mental state?
Yeah, the mental state. And the mental state is a constructed reality, and there are lots of programs running in this world. You're getting different messages from the capitalistic world, from the movies, the world of movies, from the news, and you get stuck in that reality. You become disconnected from your own nature, from your own the divinity of God. That
Right.
is within you.
That is naturally within you. That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is why I think that is why very successful people, because they have achieved those those worldly things that we are chasing of money, fame, power.
Yeah.
They get to that point and then they're all about spirituality,
Yeah.
right? Because they've
they're like, I thought when I get to the top of this mountain, I'll be so happy, but I'm still feeling terrible.
Exactly.
So there must be something more to life, like the Jim Carreys or the
Exactly.
Robin Williams of the world, right?
Yeah. I was watching a podcast yesterday of this Bollywood actor Shahid Kapoor, and I was very pleasantly surprised that he was at the stage. He is at the stage as well, and he had a lot of great things to share. Like we're always chasing things, we're chasing money, we're chasing success, but it's not about that. It's that you take the right steps and then it will come to you. You let it come to you. So that was really deep, and that made me think that he is at that point where he has realized कि अच्छा all this money, all this fame, चलो ठीक है, fit है, but these are some things that we are in our hustle culture basically. इन चीज़ों को हम overlook कर रहे होते हैं. All the day we're busy, we're working, maybe we're doing 2 jobs, and we're unaware of, or maybe we've tuned out these things, the spiritual element of our lives. So yoga basically that helps bring it back.
Yeah, there are many paths, like being Muslim. Islam is one great path, of course, and I think yoga goes hand in hand with your beliefs as a Muslim. You still have to pray 5 times a day. That's my personal belief. These days, when you say such a thing on the internet, you will have 10 people coming and attacking you. But I think Islam, your 5 prayers in a day and then yoga, they can go hand in hand. And it's beautiful when you're doing both of them together, because you become a disciplined person. And I don't think there's any power in the world that can beat a person who's disciplined. Even if they're in jail, they still have a routine. They can still have that mental equilibrium to face any kind of challenge.
Yeah, very interesting you mentioned prayer. And since you're doing that and you're also doing yoga, I think that I'm pretty sure that the way that you pray will be very different from someone who is not into yoga and hasn't self-actualized themselves. So so everyone, including myself, masla kya hota hai? And I'm not a 5 waqt namazi, but jab kabhi padhi, so my mind is elsewhere, like everyone,
exactly.
right? So have you sorted this out?
Yeah. So so when you're doing yoga, then you can be more aware of namaz. You're more aligned with the namaz, and you believe that whatever you're saying, to also sort of have that resonate with you. If you say one surah, then you wait for it, you think about it, and you feel it in your body, So instead of just rote learning and rote speaking the words that you've learned as a child, a lot of people do this. They're just ratifying and repeating those words, but they're not feeling it. You have to feel them in your heart in order to have them really resonate with you. That's one thing. The other thing is, a lot of my clients also say this, that before doing yoga, they weren't able to properly, prostrate. They weren't able to sit down on the mat. Their thighs would hurt. Their legs would hurt. They didn't have that flexibility. So now they do have that flexibility. Their namaz has improved.
Interesting. Right. And like the physical aspect, but has their spiritual aspect also improved in terms of namaz, that they're more in tune with being present, basically? A lot of us are not present when we're praying.
Yeah. So, it does help, because yoga is all about focus and concentration, right? Which there's a huge deficit of that in the modern world because of social media. The average person's, their attention span has reduced from 10 seconds to 8 seconds, which is less than a goldfish's. So our attention span
I didn't know
is less.
These numbers.
Yeah.
So we have an 8-second attention span.
Yeah, I think it's even lower now. Maybe it's 5 or 6 seconds. Like,
wow.
If you sit with a person, just wait for them before their mind just, goes somewhere else.
Wow.
And you will notice that people are juggling between their thoughts. If you open their browser, they have like 10, 20 tabs open. That's the average person.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Interesting. So in terms of doing these things, meditation, sitting with yourself, sitting with your thoughts, being in the present. So I've tried a few guided meditations here and there, specifically when I'm like really, really stressed and really, really anxious. So I've tried those and those have helped. But the thing that I have in my mind is that this is just something in my mind. I need your like opinion on this, that if I start doing this like every day, then will there be a point of diminishing return जब जाके ये मेरे लिए फायदा नहीं हो रहा होगा, and I'd be like, okay, this is not working, I need something else. So does that happen? Do you have to use these things sparingly?
I guess it depends on the kind of meditation you're doing. So then there are certain meditations that you can do every day, but then there are meditations that अगर उनका असर हो गया आप पे, then you don't need to do them. For example, a calming meditation. If someone is prone to anger and they do a calming meditation, it's good. But if someone is already super calm and they need maybe more aggressive energy in their life so they can, become more, let's say, proactive. If they become extremely calm to the point of sadness, like a sloth, then obviously that's not something they need to do every single day. So you'd have to do like an inner check with yourself. Okay, do I need to do this? But then there are meditations like Shavasana, which is the meditation that helps you fall asleep, and you do it while lying down. So if you're a person who has trouble falling asleep, if you have insomnia, something like that, then that is a great meditation to do every night.
That's like in which you thank different parts of your body, right? Shavasana.
You can do that. I think gratitude is a great thing, but it's more so that you put your focus on different body parts and you tell them to just calm down and relax. And they actually become relaxed. This is the beauty of yoga. Before I did this, I didn't know you could talk to your body parts. Isn't that amazing that you can talk to your body parts and you can command them to chill out?
Yeah. So I had a friend over in the podcast, and she told me about Shavasana, and she said that not the first time, I think every time she does it, she starts crying.
Acha,
yeah,
that's very interesting.
Yeah. Because basically, when she started doing that, she was in that postpartum depression phase.
Achha.
So when she used to do Shavasana, she just started crying. I was really moved by that. Okay, it's so powerful.
I think she was probably holding back her tears in her day-to-day life. A lot of people do that, in our society, or maybe in the world society these days. People don't find an outlet where they feel emotionally safe to just cry in front of people. No, it's considered taboo or weakness, like rona nahi. So when you relax, so maybe that was her time where she could just express.
Yeah. I did one guided meditation, I think in November. At that time, I was like really, really stressed. So मैंने कहा कि I'll just do this to start my day. So it was like the what do you call it? The teacher or the person who was guiding, he was basically telling us to go and imagine a place in which we feel safe. Right? And that started to make me cry as well. And I was like, ये क्या हो रहा है? But So, and then I thought, should I do this again? So I have the same question for you. So if you've done a particular type or let's say a particular YouTube video of guided meditation, should you do that again, or will it not have the same effect?
So first of all, to answer that exactly, you'd have to try it out because, I can't predict if it would affect you in the same way. But if you're asking me whether that was a good thing or a bad thing, I would say it was a good thing because you probably have not felt safe in a long time, maybe, and we are not aware of these things, but it's super common, I suffered from that myself, that I didn't feel safe. अगर आप news बहुत ज़्यादा देखें तो like there's this war going on in the media these days women are made to fear men are made to fear women. इसके अलावा और बहुत सी चीज़ें हैं, so feeling safe is actually uncommon. And I think that when you cry, you're releasing some emotions that you didn't know you had. There are certain things that were buried in your subconscious that maybe you were running away from. And when you cry, you can finally move past that.
Yeah, that's true. So in today's world, our attention span, you mentioned, it's like 8 or less seconds.
Yeah.
Everyone is stressed. kids are stressed. The Gen Z is who were
Yeah,
brought up with
absolutely.
technology. They're stressed, and we're not doing anything to manage our stress.
Yeah,
Right?
which is crazy.
Yeah. So, what would you suggest to do as stress management, or like the first step that someone should take for stress management?
Okay, so I think there are measures that are preventative, like things that you should limit in your life, which are the sources of the stress. So if you're somebody who sits on social media, like let's say there are people who do it like 6 hours a day, 7 hours a day, try to limit that incrementally, take that back to 1 hour. 5 hours करें, फिर 4 hours, फिर 3 hours, फिर उसको diminish करें. और दूसरा, so there's like a 360 approach that I talk about a lot, which is कि आप अपनी diet को improve करें. Sometimes maybe you're having too much caffeine, maybe you're having like fast food at 11 p.m. right before going to bed. Those are things that can actually increase your anxiety levels and stress levels. So work on that. But on the mental side and on the remedial side, I would obviously prescribe yoga and meditation. A lot of people go to the gym like yourself, and that I'm sure that helps you, right?
Yeah.
So you can maybe join the gym, and also like you said, YouTube has lots of these guided meditations. You can follow those. Then there are people who are unclear about their own thoughts. They're unclear कि what do they want. They can start journaling, ठीक है? So they can just start writing their thoughts, and if they're afraid somebody might read them, they can delete them later. But at least when you put your thoughts out on paper, you get a clearer idea, and you even come up with solutions. If you think you're stuck in a problem, you come up with solutions. Other than that, you can take therapy if you find a really good therapist, which is hard to come by, but you can take therapy. You can talk to a trusted friend. You can talk to someone with wisdom. You can talk to anyone. There's so many ways these days. That's the beauty of that's a blessing of this century as well.
Yeah, but the sad part is no one is doing this anymore, right? So they're all about being successful, being better than the other person. बहुत ज़्यादा competition. I think because of social media, बहुत ज़्यादा.
There's a lot of competition. There's a lot of like the Ambani wedding just happened, and now they've set a new benchmark of ये events भी होने चाहिए, and so there's a lot of competition and showiness.
Yeah. So when I started this podcast at that time, what was I doing? This is a very interesting conversation I had with a friend of mine. So I was doing this podcast, and I go to the gym in the morning, like 4 days a week. And I was also working like I still am at the corporate job. And I met a friend of mine, and he was like, man, I wake up at 11 a.m. thinking I woke up early, and I look at your stories, you're already done with your workout, you're done with your breakfast, and then you're working this corporate job and you're doing this podcast. That's amazing. And I said that, it's amazing, but I'm burnt out. Because at that time, like I was doing everything myself in the podcast. Yeah. So I said, man, I'm burned out. I don't have any rest. There is no weekend for me. Saturday, Sunday, I'm working. It's been like 2 months, and I'm just I don't know what to do. Very exhausted. And you know what he said? He said, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Okay.
Now I don't feel so bad about myself.
So that's the power of social media. They're only seeing that side of my life, right? That everything is awesome. Main sab kuch kar raha hu. I am so productive.
Yeah. Like, how they say check on your strong friends, the friends who pretend to be really strong, whose lives seem really like they're highly accomplished. Yeah. But sometimes they're struggling the most because they're juggling so many things together. But it's good that you learned that you needed to delegate, right?
Exactly.
And maybe that diminished your stress.
It did. Yeah. So Humay, you've also done martial arts, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Are you still practicing or not?
These days I'm not practicing, but I was like 6 months ago. So I was trained with a German martial artist, and we basically she taught us different forms of self-defense. There was ninjutsu, there was BJJ, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and a mix of other martial arts, kung fu as well. And basically it was very interesting because We also did exercises to overcome the psychological ways in which women or men, they can get attacked or assaulted. And that starts in the mind. So one of the exercises was about saying no. And the trainers would ask us different things like, can I have your phone? Can I borrow your car keys? Will you sell me a house? And normally women have the tendency to say yes to everything because we've been socialized in a way कि आपने अच्छी लड़की बनना है, आपने किसी को offend नहीं करना. But the downside of that is that you're not even able to say no to people who might be dangerous to you, you know? So that was like one exercise that helped us to overcome our own fears with saying no. And then later there were different strikes, different ways in which we could save ourselves if we were in a threatening situation.
Right. I would say a lot of men these days, like including myself, I found it really hard to say no myself. Because मेरे ज़हन में भी same thing, not कि अच्छी लड़की बनना है, but like
अच्छा लड़का.
अच्छा, but like you know, be a good guy.
Yeah, like फर्माबरदार बच्चे बनो.
फर्माबरदार बच्चे बनो कि कभी किसी को feel ना हो कि बदतमीजी की है.
Yeah, even like men are prone to being used and abused.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But that's really interesting. This is the first time I've heard that martial arts was taught, but it started with this.
The mind, yeah.
The mind. That's very interesting.
It's about drawing boundaries around yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And those include physical boundaries, but also mental boundaries.
Yeah. But did this like actually help in real life? Because I can imagine a trainer saying to me, just say no. And I'll be like, no.
No. So when you're doing this exercise, you don't tell the people what you're doing.
Okay.
You will just ask them questions.
Okay.
And then gauge their response.
Okay. Yeah. Like how?
So, for example, if you're a student, I will just ask you certain things. Okay. Like, can I borrow your watch? Can I have your watch? Can I keep your watch? And then you'll say yes because you want to appease the teacher. But then in the second round, I'm going to tell you that try saying no now, just to make you practice saying no.
So basically you weren't aware in the first round that this is happening.
Yeah.
They just casually said,
yes, exactly.
Can I have your phone? Can I have your, just to gauge. Oh, okay.
Yes.
And in the second round, they told you that now you have to say no.
Yes.
So my question is basically that you were told to say no, right? So you knew that if I say no, they won't mind because, they told me to say no.
Yeah, but it's also about creating muscle memory, right? Mm-hmm. If you have practiced, even if it's in role playing, if you've practiced saying no to someone, you will become more comfortable with it, right? And also when you're being trained, the teacher is telling you there's nothing wrong in saying no because it can literally save your life.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So how much did that help you in your practical life?
It did help me because I think my nature has been to be a bit of a people pleaser, and always be like the peacemaker in every situation, कि किसी को offend नहीं करना and stuff. So it did help me, I became more assertive, and again, like I could say no to people, and I just realized there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. So are you at that phase now? So there are two ways of saying no. One is that, I call you and I say, Humay, can I borrow, I don't know, something. Yeah. And you directly say, no, sorry, I can't give that to you. Or another way that a lot of people these days do is, मैं बताती हूँ, and then not get back.
They disappear and they ghost you.
Yeah. So which phase are you at? Are you directly say no now?
So my thing has been to be honest with the person, and it depends also. If they're a close friend and they need something, I would offer it. But if it's someone I don't want to give something to and I think it's unreasonable, then I would just say it that I'm sorry, but this is too much of an ask, and maybe I'll try to explain it. Yeah.
Right. I wish my wife was here right now. I'm trying to teach her.
She can watch the episode.
Yeah. That's interesting. So it started off with learning to say no.
Yeah.
And then the different forms of self.
Yeah.
It was self-defense mostly.
Yeah. So it's basically if somebody is blocking your way, if somebody strikes you from the back, if somebody is, hitting you from different angles, basically. So it's like that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And so was it like traditional martial arts, were there belts associated with it, or was it just like a workshop that you guys went through?
So there were different classes, and they were different. There was one belt. There weren't multiple belts. There were some basic poses that you can do, that anyone can do. Even like a grandma can do, you know.
Okay.
So they were easy poses, but they were powerful poses.
Right.
Yeah.
So has it increased your confidence in the real world? Like when you're walking, you feel confident?
Yeah, for sure. So I went to a concert a month ago, and you know how concerts are in Pakistan,
yeah.
like all the
Jungli.
all the like the weirdos are there.
Yeah.
And men were not allowed to enter without any women, right? Like they had to come in groups or couples. But there were guys who were just hounding us like, "Hame enter kara do, please, hame enter kara do." And then there were like two guys who came super close to me and my sister. And I just remind myself, I was like, I can literally knock any guy down over here if I just did like this, right?
Elbow?
Yeah, it's like an elbow strike, and you hit with full force, and the tip of your elbow is actually really powerful. You can make somebody's nose bleed with it, right? And I thought I can do this. I didn't do it actually. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to hurt anyone. But just knowing that made me feel more powerful. And I did scare them with my voice. I was like, what the hell are you doing, you know? Because even that is intimidating to harassers. Yeah.
So this one is for someone behind you or in front of you?
In front of you. So it's called hair behind the ears. And it's called that because, you know, Susie, who's our founder, she kept like really fun names that you can easily remember. So one of them is called Cup of Coffee. Okay. And that is like a punch to get someone out of the way. But we call it Cup of Coffee so that it becomes non-intimidating. You know, when a lot of women are coming to learn self-defense, they're already scared. They're like, hum kisi ko hurt na kar dein. So that's why the founder, Susie, she kept names that are very everyday. Like putting your hair behind the ears is something that every girl can relate to. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so in your profile, you've also mentioned Pilates.
Yeah.
So you do that these days?
Yes. So Pilates is something that is similar to yoga, but it's just in the body, right?
Right.
And it was founded by a man called Joseph Pilates. And he made this exercise when he was working in a hospital. And he saw that people who were just lying in their stretchers were not doing anything. And they were becoming more and more weak because of that. So he came up with this exercise that you can do even while lying in bed. And there's a lot that you can do. So that's how he came up with Pilates. But now, of course, Pilates has changed. You can do it while standing up. And it's like a low impact kind of exercise, but it does burn your muscles like a lot.
So is it more for people who are recovering from injuries and stuff, or is it for everyone?
So it's for anyone and everyone. But what I've noticed is that more women are doing Pilates than men are. It gives you a lean body, a strong body, but a lean body as opposed to a jacked body.
Because it's just your body weight in it, right?
It's your body weight, right? But anyone can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Pilates that I've seen here and there, it's like a lot of fancy equipment that I've never seen before. Do you need that for Pilates?
Yeah, I think that's called the reformer Pilates, right?
Okay.
And it's good because it makes that resistance, right?
Okay.
I don't do that. I do the mat work Pilates.
So you don't need anything? You can do it with your body weight?
you do it with your own body weight. There are a few poses and it's like low intensity, and like women who are suffering from injuries or health conditions, they prefer to do that.
Okay, so I guess the top prospect for this would be new mothers coming out of giving like a out of a childbirth.
New
right?
mothers, they go for postpartum yoga. But it can be anyone basically, you know, anyone who maybe someone who was running on a treadmill at a gym and they injured their knee, for example. Yeah. Interesting.
I didn't know that. And you're saying that there are like common things between Pilates and yoga, like you have to hold poses.
Yeah, exactly. You have to hold poses. And you know, the exercises are a bit slow paced. Yeah. And then there's the role of the breath as well.
Right.
So maybe you have to hold your breath while doing it. It targets really subtle muscles in your body that otherwise maybe you don't really pay attention to. I myself, I was just out one day taking a slide with my friends and I ended up hurting my tailbone, right? And I was in pain for maybe like a few months, 6-7 months.
Oh, wow.
And when I was doing my Pilates certification, there was a pose in which you only move your tailbone.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was like the first time I did something in such an isolated manner. And after doing that, my pain just went away.
Really?
Yeah, but I was thinking if I went to a gym, no trainer would have told me that thing because there's no name for that exercise,
Interesting.
right?
So tailbone, that sucks. Did it hurt when you sat down on a
Yeah,
hard
it did. It did hurt. And I think this is quite common now, and especially in people who work in office jobs.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I haven't heard
Also
this
in
much.
new mothers, it's common.
Okay.
Like when they have like a herniated disc or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. And it's interesting you mentioned that Pilates में ना आपको hold करने होते हैं poses.
Yeah.
Because so I was like badly injured a few months back, like chronic injury. It didn't happen just instantaneously. It built up over the course of 1.5 years. So, and then the things that worked for me was other than physiotherapy, my physiotherapist told me things to do at home. A lot of that was static holds.
Acha,
Yeah,
interesting.
static holds. So my elbow and my shoulder, these were the main issues.
Yeah.
So he said ke once I got a little better, he said ke now what you have to do, you have to go in a push-up position and just stay there.
Okay.
And then the second exercise
like
will
a
be
plank.
kind of like a plank. And then the second exercise will be you come a little down, jitna comfortable hai, and just hold it.
And are
for
your
me,
knees in the air?
No, just
knees
the
are
push-up
on-
position.
Okay.
So the targeting the joints that were hurting basically,
Right,
elbow and shoulders.
Right.
So he basically educated me on this fact that you work your muscles by lifting weights, right?
Yeah.
You work your tendons by isolation and isometrics, exactly. Isometric exercise. That's how you work and strengthen your tendons.
Exactly.
And that started to work. So the first time I did it, I was holding it and I was just shaking. I fell down.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Ye kya ho raha hai yaar?" And slowly my time started to increase. And then one day I was just feeling good, and I just did one push-up. And I couldn't even do one push-up. I just did one. I was like, whoa, that didn't hurt.
Yeah.
So then I realized that this really works, these isometrics. Yeah. And Pilates has a lot of these, you're saying.
Pilates has that, yoga has that. And, you're strengthening your muscle by being in one position and by holding that position.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no wear and tear. There's no damage of that sort.
Yeah. Great. So if there's one thing if there's one advice you can give to someone who's just coming into yoga, or let's say someone who's not a believer of yoga and they're like, oh, what is this mumbo jumbo? This doesn't work. So what would be your message to them?
My message would be don't write it off before you've tried it. Look for a good certified teacher in your vicinity. Take a yoga class or take 1 week worth of yoga classes and then make up your mind about yoga.
So like 1 week. So like
at least, yeah.
Okay. So like typically when someone is going for a fat loss phase, we say that, try this for at least 2-3 months. फिर आपको पता चलेगा.
Because fat loss is slow, right?
Right. So you're saying this for this like 1 week mein, if you're doing it right, आपको पता लग जाएगा.
So like I said, my anxiety dissipated within 1 week, right?
Right.
So it worked for me.
Right.
Instantly, yeah.
And you're saying you started this in 2011?
2012.
2012. So you've been doing this for like 12 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's been a while.
So in these 12 years, have you seen new developments within this, like new things popping up, or is it just the old tradition that's being followed
in
throughout?
Islamabad, I've seen a lot of new variations and innovations in yoga, which I didn't know of before, which are super cool. Like there's acro yoga, in which like two partners do yoga together, and then there's like really fun exercises that involve acrobatics in them. And I did that with a yogi from Karachi. His name's Ajlan.
Yeah. I'm
he's
trying to
amazing.
get him on the podcast.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's
he used
good.
to host these free session that anyone could go to a Japanese park. And I learned it from him.
Okay.
Acro yoga. And then there was that, the rope walking kind of thing, slacklining. So I was actually good at slacklining because I was doing tree pose and I was doing yoga already. And it was great. Yeah.
Great. Well, Humay, it was great having you and having this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's lovely being here.
No worries. And for everyone who's still watching, thank you so much for watching till the end. We'll meet in the next episode of the NSJD show. Tab tak ke liye, this is NSJD signing out. Allah Hafiz.